Well, we're live here on our introductory episode of Action Design Radio. How excited are you, Zarak?
I mean, scale of 1 to 10, I'm at least a 12.
I would agree. I'm about the same. I was thinking of 13, but that's close too. Um,
Save some for later episodes.
yeah. So what we're doing here, this is a very short introduction to the podcast. It's just to kind of give people an idea of who we are, why this is, why we're doing this, and kind of what the goal is. So if none of that interests you, you can just skip ahead to our first episode with Matt Waller, which is great. But if you want a little bit of background, we're here to provide it for you. So why don't we start? First of all, my name's Eric, and Eric Johnson. Maybe the last name's helpful too. And I'm with my friend Zarak Khan, who is the president of Action Design. Zarak, could you describe a little more for our audience what exactly Action Design is?
Sure. So, Action Design is a group of folks who are interested in behavioral science and its application to policy and product design to improve people's lives. So, it's a nonprofit group. It was founded in 2012 in Washington, D.C. We've grown a ton since then really quickly. So we've got chapters all across the U.S. We've got a couple chapters in Canada. And what those folks do is they get together about once a month, once every 2 months, and they have a speaker. They put on an event where someone, usually from either academia or public policy or product design, comes and talks about the work that they're doing, kind of cutting edge work in behavioral science. So it's the group is kind of about bringing folks together to make connections where you might not meet those folks otherwise. And as we've grown, we've been able to kind of do more and more interesting things. So we've done some bigger events, like we've had a couple national conferences, and now we're trying to reach folks and kind of expand the different ways that we provide that information to people. So right now, we have these in-person events. Now we're kind of looking at getting the word out and sharing some of this stuff a little bit more broadly. So hence this podcast is one of those efforts.
I think that's a great transition into the podcast itself, and then we can introduce ourselves. So yeah, I mean that kind of gives you a spiel about what Action Design is. So this podcast, as Zarak mentioned, is really just a way to kind of expand the content that we tend to, we get a lot of really great speakers at our events and at the conferences we've had. But we can only share that with so many people. We're not like recording videos of all those. So there's so much good work being done in the field and so many people all over the world doing it that really this is a chance to expand that reach and share a lot more of this information with other people that might not be in a city with a meetup or not be able to attend meetups all the time, and make sure we're providing more than just that in-person content. So purpose of this, similar sort of thing. We're for now the plan is we're going to interview a lot of the top people in applied behavioral science, whether that's in, as Zarak said, places like public policy or designing products or generally entrepreneurship, any academia, anything like that. And we're just going to try to tease out a little more about what they do, what type of stuff they're accomplishing, what they're learning, and what ultimately how you can apply those lessons in your own job and career or for your product or whatever it is you're working on. So it's possible in the future we might vary it a little bit off of just the core interviews, but for now the plan is we're just going to interview a lot of the top people, as many as we can, and start sharing those. I think bi-weekly is the plan, and then we'll see how the schedule shakes out from there and how people like it and how much of Action Design Radio they want.
Yeah, I think, and to give you guys a glimpse into sort of like what Eric and I were thinking about when we were first talking about this is, we sort of conceived of it as just very like informal conversations that we were having with, folks that we knew or that we admired in the field. So the format that you'll hear is very like, it's essentially kind of like you're listening in on a phone call where we're just sort of catching up with friends. So that's sort of the tone that we're kind of going for. And, it's new for us. So we might play around with it a little bit as well, but
Sure.
That's just to give you a little bit of insight into kind of how we were thinking about it.
But yeah, and hopefully, we'll sure that we'll get better at this as we go on. But ultimately, as Rock said, we just want to have really good, deep conversations into what's going on in the field and how behavioral science is really improving the world from the people that are actually out there doing it, learning, and applying. So we're going to be, with talking to a lot of really interesting people. We got a lot coming up, and it's exciting. On that note, we should probably give a shout out to Zach Simon, our producer, who is much more well versed in all of this audio stuff than we are. So he's kind of a lifesaver there. So you'll hear him in the upcoming episodes. He'll give the kind of introduction and outros for each of our episodes.
Yeah, Zach is also the the head organizer for the Chicago group. So if you're in Chicago, you can meet Zach there. And maybe we, now that you kind of know sort of a little bit about the group and a little bit about what we're going for with the podcast, we can sort of give you a glimpse into the voices behind the podcast.
Who are we?
So I'm Zarak Khan. As Erik mentioned, I'm president of Action Design. I've been in that role for about 2 years. And so it's great. I basically get to help coordinate a bunch of really smart, fun, hardworking people who are passionate about behavioral science in kind of a bunch of different forms. So I get sort of a bird's eye view of a bunch of really cool things that are happening across all of our different chapters. And in my sort of day job, I'm a management consultant as well, based out of DC. And yeah, I guess maybe that's me in a nutshell.
One thing I'll add to Zarak's information is he travels a lot. So in the beginning of every episode, we're going to ask where he is. And sometimes he'll just be in DC. Sometimes he's in places like Austria. So you never really know. So where in the world is Zarak is a game we will regularly play on this show. So yeah, thanks for the introduction yourself. So for me, I'm Erik Johnson, and I'm a board member of the kind of a national group of Action Design. As far as my involvement in the group, many moons ago, I helped out with kind of the initial chapter of Action Design in Washington, D.C. With some of the group's founders. And then I moved to New York for a job with Ideas 42, which is an awesome behavioral economics kind of think tank and consultancy. And I started up a New York chapter there, which is still ongoing. And now I just kind of help out with the broader national group as a board member. And I live in Chicago working for Morningstar as a part of our behavioral insights team. So basically we have a team of kind of practitioners and researchers that take what we know about behavioral science and apply it to our business so we can better serve our customers. We serve generally investors and help people reach their financial goals. And we do that a few ways. We kind of apply it within the company and help the business or the organization run more efficiently and effectively using behavioral methods. And we also just do a lot of research. We partner with academics and run our own studies on how people make decisions about money and how we can kind of help understand that better and ultimately help people reach their goals faster. So I think that covers it for me for the most part.
Cool. So that's a little bit about the group, a little bit about the podcast, a little bit about your hosts. And so if you want to learn more, I would suggest checking out our website, action-design.org. And there you can sign up for, you can subscribe to the podcast. You can look for a local meetup chapter. So we've got, as I mentioned, I think like 10 across the U.S. and then a couple in Canada as well. And we're kind of bringing new ones online every year. So there's lots of opportunities to participate and engage in person there. And then I would also encourage you to subscribe to our mailing list, where we'll be kind of sending out updates and keeping you guys apprised of cool stuff that's going on across the group.
Excellent. And as far as the show itself, we'll have the episodes on that website, action-design.org. We'll also be on SoundCloud and iTunes, and I think we'll hopefully continue expanding to other platforms that host podcasts as we go on. But at least to start with, we'll be there. So I guess that's it. Is there anything else you want to cover, Zarak?
I don't think so. I hope you guys enjoy. If you have, as you're listening, if you have suggestions or thoughts, definitely feel free to send those our way. And, we hope that you guys enjoy listening to it as much as we've enjoyed kind of making them.
Definitely. Yeah, we definitely would love as much feedback as possible. This is to be, a resource and useful for the greater community that's interested in this stuff. So, as we kind of learn the ropes and get started here, if we have suggestions on how to make it better, we will do as much as we can.
Perfect. All right.
All
See you on
right.
the podcast.
We'll talk to you all soon.